Okay, so picture this, a world so glued to its own reflection, in those shiny skyscrapers it built, that it totally misses the warning signs. Like nature is literally screaming, hey, pay attention. And that's where this whole fictional excerpt drops us. A world where the Great Flood, something people think is like a myth, comes roaring back to like challenge everything we think we know.
Gives you chills, right?
Totally.
It's like the excerpt shoves you right into this world and everything's off. The oceans are acting weird. Cities are shaking for no reason. Even animals are like booking it inland as if they know something's up.
And to make it even creepier, there are these whispers of some ancient prophecy, like something from a history book, predicting this massive flood. But of course, most people are all, yeah, right, whatever.
Typical right. We love to ignore the signs, even when they're right in our faces. It's a bit too real, if you ask me.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Even with all our fancy technology and science stuff, are we any smarter than our ancestors? Like, would we even listen if someone shouted, "Flood's coming!" from the rooftops?
That's the big question hanging over everything. It's almost like even if we had all the answers, would we even act? Or would we just, I don't know, freeze, like deer in headlights?
Scary thought. But that's where our characters come in. As the water starts creeping higher, we meet this group of people, each dealing with this crazy situation in their own way.
And through them, we see how different people react when the unthinkable actually happens. Take Dr. Elias Carr. He's a climate scientist, spent his whole life warning everyone about climate change, and what happens? No one listens.
Talk about frustrating. The guy's watching his worst nightmare unfold right before his eyes.
Then there's Aisha Rahmani. She's an archaeologist, but she digs up more than old artifacts. She stumbles upon a secret that might be the only way to survive this whole flood thing.
But there's always a catch, right?
Yeah.
She's totally wrestling with the fact that her thirst for knowledge, wanting to know more, might have actually caused this whole mess.
It's like how much responsibility comes with uncovering huge secrets. Secrets that could change the world as we know it.
Big questions, for sure. And then we've got Father Gabriel. He's a man of faith, trying to wrap his head around like the spiritual side of a second great flood. Is this some kind of punishment, a test, or something else entirely?
His whole journey is about trying to make sense of what he believes while everything around him is falling apart. I think a lot of people would feel that, especially when things get tough and their faith is put to the test.
It's relatable, that feeling of questioning everything. And of course, we can't forget Marcus Valen. He's the wild card in all this, right? This power-hungry tycoon who sees the flood not as a tragedy, but as like his chance to become king of the hill.
Valen's a scary reminder that some people will take advantage of anything, even a global disaster, to get what they want, stepping on anyone in their way.
So we're left with this seriously messed up situation, a world on the verge of collapse, a group of people battling their own demons, and the constant threat of being swallowed by the rising tide. It makes you think, can humanity get its act together and ride this out, or are we just going to drown in our own mistakes?
And the water just keeps rising, it's like swallowing everything in its path. Cities, towns, everything. Our characters, they start to realize something terrifying, like maybe all our technology, all our fancy gadgets, maybe it's not enough this time.
Yeah, it's a mad scramble for survival. And the excerpt, it doesn't hold back. It shows just how bad it gets, like the world is literally falling apart. But even in all the chaos, there's a glimmer of hope. And it comes from the most unlikely place.
Remember Aisha, the archaeologist? Well, she's digging into this lost civilization, right? And she stumbles across this legend, the Ark of Solitude. It's this ancient thing, an artifact, and people say it can stop even the worst floods.
The Ark of Solitude. It sounds like something straight out of a movie. But it's not like a magic wand, right? It's not that easy.
Not at all. This is where the excerpt gets really clever. It uses this classic storytelling trick. Like the One Ring from Lord of the Rings. Or those infinity stones from the Marvel movies. It's like
You make me guess.
I was going to say a MacGuffin. It's this thing, this object that everyone wants. It drives the whole story.
Right. The Ark of Solitude. Everyone wants it. It represents hope, a way out of this disaster. But finding it, that's only half the battle. Because it comes with a price. A big one.
And that's where things get really interesting. Because imagine having to make that choice. To save everyone else, you might have to make the ultimate sacrifice.
It's a dilemma that cuts deep. It makes you question everything.
For sure. And each character, they grapple with it in their own way. Dr. Carr, he's still haunted by the fact that no one listened to his warnings. Aisha, she's dealing with the fact that her discoveries might have caused this whole mess. And Father Gabriel, his faith is being tested like never before.
Yeah, and then there's Marcus Valen. He's not exactly the selfless type.
Not at all. Valen sees the Ark as his golden ticket, his way to rule whatever's left of the world.
Like I said, a total wild card. It's a good reminder, though, that even when things are at their worst, there are still going to be people who try to take advantage of the situation.
Sadly, that's human nature, right? For every act of kindness, there's someone looking out for number one.
And as we get to the end of this story, it's like the setting itself, the world around these characters, it becomes a character too. Like a physical representation of how messed up everything is. Imagine this. You've got this city, once bustling with life, now totally swallowed by water. The only things left are the tips of the tallest skyscrapers poking out, like skeletal fingers reaching for a sky that's not even listening.
It's haunting, isn't it? The excerpt does a great job of using that imagery, that destroyed city, to kind of mirror what's going on inside the characters. They're not just picking their way through rubble, they're dealing with the wreckage of everything they thought they knew, everything they believed in.
Yeah, like their whole world has been turned upside down. And right in the middle of all this, hidden beneath the waves, is this sunken temple. That's where the Ark of Solitude is. But the excerpt describes it as this place of, like, eerie silence, a moment of peace in this huge destructive storm.
It's like even nature is holding its breath, waiting to see what happens. And inside, you've got all these different forces about to collide. Dr. Carr, he's still trying to cling to logic, to reason, even though everything seems impossible. Then there's Aisha, struggling with the idea that her discoveries might have caused this whole flood in the first place. And Father Gabriel, his faith is shaken to the core, but he still chooses to believe in something.
And let's not forget Marcus Valen. He's not about to let a little thing like a global flood stop him. He wants that Ark, sees it as his ticket to power.
The tension in this scene is unbelievable. You have the flood raging outside, this crumbling temple, and these characters, each with their own agenda, about to clash.
It's like something out of an action movie.
Totally. And at the center of it all, you've got the Ark of Solitude. But it's not what you'd expect. It's not some fancy golden thing covered in jewels. It's described as this simple stone vessel, almost plain, really, but there's something about it, an energy, you know?
Like it holds some kind of power that's almost too much to handle.
Exactly. It's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful things are the ones that don't scream for attention.
But here's the thing. Using the Ark, it comes at a cost, a big one. Someone has to make the ultimate sacrifice. A life for the salvation of humanity. Talk about an impossible choice.
No easy answers. And in a moment that just breaks your heart, it's Father Gabriel who steps forward. He's been through the ringer, his faith has been tested, but he still chooses to believe. He sacrifices himself to activate the Ark. It's like in the face of oblivion, he finds this incredible strength, this unwavering hope.
It's a powerful moment.
Yeah.
You can't help but feel the weight of it. The flood, it recedes, leaving behind a world that's been forever changed. Battered, bruised, but not broken. And the survivors, they start to rebuild, haunted by what they've lost, but also, like, grateful for this second chance.
And that's where the excerpt leaves us, with this question. Will humanity actually learn from all this? Will we take this second chance and build something better, something that works with nature instead of against it? Or will we fall back into our old ways, the greed and destruction? It's a question we all have to wrestle with, even outside this story, because the excerpt, it's not just about a flood. It's about us. It's about the choices we make, both big and small, and how those choices shape the world around us. So what about you? If you were standing there looking out at that newly reborn world, what would you do differently? What lessons would you take with you? Let us know. We want to hear your thoughts. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.